Before we start the podcast, I wanted to make you aware of the free vocab worksheet available for you to access right now for this very episode you are about to listen to. It has some of the episode's best native expressions along with their definitions for a non-native learner so that you can keep up with the conversation you are about to hear. Find the link in the show notes or head to thebritishenglishpodcast.com/worksheet. That's thebritishenglishpodcast.com/worksheet. Hello and welcome to the British English Podcast, the show that helps you understand British English and attempts to unravel British culture or cultural similarities and differences around the world. Today we're going to be focusing on hobbies, and I thought it would be good to get Martin from Rock and Roll English back on the show to talk about his hobbies, whether he thinks that the hobbies that we mention are usual, not typical, or even a bit strange. Martin, how are you doing today?
Not bad, Charlie. Very happy to be here to talk about my hobbies.
Would you say that you've got many hobbies?
I would say I had hobbies before children. and then I'm sure people that have got kids will be able to relate to this. Your hobbies start to slowly decline once you have children.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, they should put hobbies on, put parenting on the list of, although hobbies, that's probably a nice thing. Now, do you like parenting?
Yeah, I wouldn't class that as a hobby. I heard someone say, actually, on one of the parent things I listened to, they said if you could just take away all of like the other rubbish of like cleaning the mess and like getting them dressed, and it was just like take them to the park.
Yeah. Then
yeah, that would be great. I would love that. That would be a hobby.
Okay, so you enjoy the taking them to the park?
Oh yeah. That's great.
That's good fun. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. No, I went camping with my wife's family the other week, and we looked after a niece, and we went to the park, and the nephew actually, and the nephew's at the age where he just wants to kill himself. He's like 2, I think.
Yeah, my son similar.
Son,
yeah,
right. That's quite full on. Like you've got to as an uncle, I was literally just hovering over them like helicopter parenting massively. Do you kind of let them kill themselves?
Yeah, a little bit. So I went to the park the other day, for example. I took both of the kids and came back, and my son had blood all over his face and like knocked on the door. And my wife was like, "What the hell have you done?" And I was like, "Yeah, he kind of just sort of was climbing up something and just sort of jumped off it. He'll be all right." Well, once they're your kids, you're kind of just like, yeah, you'll be all right. Like, stop moaning. You just got blood on your face. Like, what's the matter with you?
I was thinking, if they're mine, I would treat them a bit differently. But
yeah. You care less when they're yours because you're looking after someone else's kids. But when they're yours, falls down the stairs, you're like, oh, come on, stop moaning. You'll be fine.
Right. The first one on this long list that we might skim through and skip some is public speaking and storytelling. That is the first hobby. What do you think about this one immediately?
It's something I actually enjoy. I enjoy a lot more now I'm older, but as a hobby, it was a bit of a strange one, I think. Like, I don't know anyone who does that as an actual hobby of like today. Like, for example, if I think of a hobby and I think of like my brother would say, today I'm going out cycling. I couldn't imagine him saying, today I'm going to tell some stories. I don't know where he would do that either.
Yeah. So it says under it, Toastmasters, open mic nights, stand-up comedy, and storytelling events. I don't know about the storytelling events. Stand-up comedy, again, it's not like your average mate is like, I'm just going to do some stand-up.
Exactly.
But Toastmasters, a few of my friends and family have done this in the past. What about you?
At weddings is the only time I can think
so
of that.
Toastmasters is a company or like an organisation, I think, where people go every week and they do their elevator pitch of their company. Do you ever listen to this podcast and think, am I coming away having actually learnt the new vocabulary that I am hearing? Well, if you're unsure, I highly recommend that you grab this episode's free vocabulary worksheet that I have made for you. Grab it now and continue listening to this episode whilst expanding your vocabulary for free. Find the link in the show notes or go to thebritishenglishpodcast.com/worksheet. That's thebritishenglishpodcast.com/worksheet. To a group of people.
Okay, right. Okay, totally did not know what that was.
Yeah. So,
no, I don't know anyone that's done that.
I wonder if that's a global thing. Like, I wonder how many countries would partake in that. It's quite a strange thing if you're not that confident at public speaking.
Yeah. There are, isn't there somewhere in London a park where you can just like stand up and
yes.
have it?
Is it like a soapbox corner kind of thing?
Something like that. I would imagine that would be quite good. I was public speaking, connecting something to what we just spoke about, going to the park.
Yeah.
This actually was a while ago now. I was at the park with my kids again, and then someone came over and just went, "Can I have everyone's attention, please?" I was thinking, God, here we go. Some drunkard now. It's like, you're thinking like we're with kids. I mean, it doesn't sound good to say, but just looking at him, I was thinking, oh God, here we go. Can I have everyone's attention? And then he just went, "I just want to wish everyone a great day," and walked off. And I thought, what a great bloke.
That is
what a great
lovely.
bloke.
Yeah. He should get to Speaker's Corner. I just Googled it. That's what you were talking about. Hyde
Right.
Park, Speaker's Corner.
So, obviously, if I ever spoke to that guy, I would imagine one of his hobbies is public speaking, just going to parks and wishing people a great day.
Yeah. I wonder if he's a member of Toastmasters.
Yeah.
All right, the next one is learning instruments. I think you're a guitarist. Do you play the guitar?
Well, on my website, there's a sort of cartoon picture of me, I think, with a guitar. Never played a guitar in my life.
What was the logo inspired by then?
Well, so the rock and roll English thing, I mean, there are a few things where it came into my head, and I just remember someone saying to me once, he's a dentist, a friend of mine, and he said, "Yeah, I'm a rock and roll dentist." And I thought that sounded pretty cool. If you just put rock and roll in front of anything, like I just saw you drinking some water. If you said this is rock and roll water, I'd be like, I want some of that. And I just kind of thought, oh, let's just go with that. And then obviously once you've got that, the guy who was helping me with the website, I was too embarrassed at this point to have my own picture on the website. So he created like a cartoon thing, and he was like, "Well, we got to give you a guitar."
Naturally.
And then I had a guitar. But lots of people have asked me that. I've even had people actually send me abusive emails because rock and roll English isn't about rock and roll, and they say you've stolen the domain and getting really pissed off.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
As in people who want to create a channel around English,
yeah,
teaching English, but around rock and roll.
I've had that as well, or just people about just something about rock and roll history of England. I don't know, but I do get abusive emails a couple of times a year from people. But so going back to instruments, obviously now I would love to play an instrument, but when I was in school, it was seen where I went to school as if you played an instrument, you were a bit of an idiot, and people would basically take the piss out of you. And one of my close friends used to play the saxophone, and he even says now how he used to try and hide his saxophone case because he knew once he got it out, everyone would be going, "Oh, you wanker, fucking instrument." Instrument boy. And he would be embarrassed, and he didn't want to, but his mum made him continue, and now he can play the sax and everyone thinks he's really cool. But during school,
it's an interesting one because an instrument leads to quote unquote the rock and roll lifestyle, but at the beginning and throughout the whole career of a musician, it's quite nerdy. You've got to be quite a nerd to be able to dedicate so much time to learning the instrument. It's an odd one how like Slash from Guns N' Roses is like so cool, but he's also a nerd. Like,
yeah, of course,
took ages to learn about how to do the fretboard and stuff. But yeah, so in my school, learning the drums, the electric guitar, and a bass. Anyone in like a 4-piece band was considered quite cool.
Okay.
But for your school, any instrument was sad.
Yeah, I don't remember anyone playing a guitar. I'm using my brain now to think about when I was like 13.
Please do.
Which is, which isn't obviously how I was thinking back then. So I'm trying to think now. If someone played a guitar, maybe I would have thought they were cool, but I don't think I would have done.
Okay.
But about instruments, British culture. Tell me if this happened in your school. I think it happened in all schools. Did you learn how to play Three Blind Mice on the recorder?
On the recorder, yes. And before that, there was a weird wind instrument in like reception. It was like a ball of air. I can't even remember what it was called. Do you know what I'm talking about? It was bright blue.
Are you sure you just weren't like blowing like an inflatable ball?
No. Basic. Do you remember it at all?
No, I don't remember that. I just remember having the recorder, which, if you think about it, is such a waste of time. It's such a waste of people's time. Playing this instrument, the recorder. I don't know if people are familiar with this. And yeah, we must have had to buy those recorders. I doubt the school gave us one because obviously, you're blowing on this instrument.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't have wanted to been blowing on something that had been in the school for 20 years and people had been blowing on. This sounds very dodgy, but
yeah, the recorder was a very common instrument that I think you have to have learnt Three Blind Mice to be able to graduate primary school in the UK. It's a shame though, because it gives the flute a bad rap, I think, because the flute is a beautiful instrument.
Yeah,
it's incredibly skillful. But
has anyone had a musical career with a recorder? I can't. I've not seen it.
I think 1% of the listeners are really angry right now, saying I am a recorderist. Would that be the noun?
Yeah. And something else about this whole primary school thing. I've seen someone recently who's getting quite big now in the UK, who plays concerts, and he calls it primary school bangers. So like the songs which people used to sing in primary school. And he was at Glastonbury and they were singing like, give me joy in my heart, keep me I don't know all the words, but
a bit going.
And there were, what were the other ones? But there are some real primary school bangers. In my school, I went to a Catholic school.
Yeah.
Talking about wasting time, they used to interrupt afternoon lessons for hymn practice. So that would involve us going into the assembly room and practicing hymns, which are like church songs for people that don't know. And again, you just think, what a waste of time that is for a child's education. Like, what is your 8-year-old doing? He's learning how to sing songs for church.
I agree, looking at it as an adult, but at the same time, the development that they get, I guess, is what they're doing it for. Like, learning how to organise themselves into learning a song.
Okay.
Like, they're not going to be learning something by Dua Lipa or anything like that at that age, are they? I'm not putting Dua Lipa on the pedestal at all, but...
But I just remember going into that hall, and even at that, we were like 7, just be like, oh, for God's sake, like, what are we doing this? And even more ridiculous, one of my friends, the teacher, he was so bad at singing, the teacher actually told him to stop. So we would have to go into hymn practice, and then he wasn't allowed to sing because his voice was so bad. You just imagine that, you're going there, you're 7 years old, the teacher just says, give it a rest. Just stop. Like, you're hurting everyone's ears. Just give it a rest.
That is nice. Oh, I found it.
Yeah.
The ocarina. A 6-hole ocarina.
A 6-hole ocarina.
It's bright blue. That's what I had in reception before a recorder.
It kind of looks familiar-ish.
No.
No.
I think you would remember.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
Mate, I think I have seen one of those in my life, but I don't remember playing that. That looks pretty. That looks more. That looks more complicated than the recorder.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Okay. So what else is normal in the UK? Piano. The piano is quite a popular instrument to learn.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of my friends was really good on the piano, and he was considered cool because he was like really good. Yeah.
Okay. Saxophone is really cool now. It's become quite a tradition in like weddings, I'd say, to have like a saxophonist.
Yeah, actually, yes. Yeah.
Like, oh wow, the saxophonist is about to play. Twat.
Yeah, my friend. Yeah, exactly. That's what we were saying to my friend.
Ukulele. The ukulele?
Is what is that? Sorry.
That's the small guitar, like a little.
Right. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. No. My kids have got one of those in Italy at their grandparents' house, and I always think as well, you get people buy stuff for kids like a Rubik's cube. Like, have you ever seen a 2-year-old complete a Rubik's cube? Some of the things people buy kids.
I'm starting to worry, Martin, that you're putting high expectations on your children. Like,
No,
you're not allowed anything unless I know that you can complete this to an adult standard.
I've never bought them a Rubik's cube. I'll buy them like a dinosaur that they press and that makes a stupid sound.
Daddy,
and even they
get some watercolours. Are you going to be a professional artist? Not yet? Well, no. Yeah. Okay. But another thing that I suppose is now a bit more popular is like electronic music production. I imagine that would be quite cool, like to be able to produce your own tunes from your laptop using one of those like drum pads and those sort of electronic.
Yeah, I mean, is that what kids do in schools these days? I mean, that sounds pretty cool. Anytime we were allowed to use a computer, which was quite rare, we even had those computers which were called BBC computers. I don't know if they were supplied by the BBC, but
I don't think the BBC has done any computers in their time.
We definitely had a computer called a BBC. And then IT lessons themselves used to involve like sitting next to your friend who was doing his coursework and then just switching his computer off so he would lose all of it because he hadn't saved it. Or another one was get all of the icons, press enter, so all of the programs open, so it would take about an hour for the computer to actually... Yeah, so these lessons for me when I was in school, like IT, music, they weren't art, they weren't considered real lessons. They were just like, let's mess around for an hour.
Yes, this is going off topic a little bit, but food tech, music,
food
IT,
tech, yep.
They were all, and drama for me.
Oh yeah,
they were all
definitely
subjects.
Yeah, definitely.
IT was quite funny. I just Googled a BBC microcomputer, and it makes me think that you're 50 years old.
I think it's just my school hadn't updated anything. I actually went to my old primary school recently, and they had the old ropes that we used to climb, like in PE. Did you ever have them?
Yeah.
And then I said to my mum's friend, I said, "Blimey, I'm sure those are the ones that we had, like when I went here." And she said, "They're the ones that were here when I went here." And she's like in her 60s.
That's a good rope.
I think
that is a bloody good rope.
Yeah, exactly. I think it tells you about how often the school like basically buys new things. Yes. I also remember doing PE. You used to forget your PE shorts, and they used to give you these shorts which seemed like they were from the 1800s, and they were so small that my like boxers were coming out underneath.
Really nice. Yeah. That'll teach them. Okay, the next one is geocaching. This says treasure hunting, navigating using GPS.
Okay, well, certainly if when I was in school, a friend said to me, "I'm going treasure hunting at the weekend," I would have said, "Get the hell out."
I'm gonna guess if playing the drums isn't cool in your school, geocaching is potential suicide.
Although, talking of like ridiculous things, kind of connected to treasure hunt in a way. One of my close friends from school, he was always a bit weird. He still is. His hobby was solving crimes, like real crimes. So there would be something.
Audio members, my face has dropped. My jaw has dropped.
Well, so like obviously we would quiz him about this, and he would say like, yeah, the other day there was loads of police around, so then I just went and asked them some questions,
like Nightcrawler.
So it's like just going there with his like pad, his pen, just like, right, so what do we know?
How old was he?
Exactly, he was like 13.
No.
And then we say, well, what did they say? And he said they would just tell me to go home. Case solved.
What does he do now?
He's actually a lecturer at university. He's got a really good professor at university in Glasgow. Okay. But just to tell you how weird he is, like he doesn't have a phone, for example, like no phone. It doesn't even have like a not smartphone, a non-smartphone.
I've got to say that would help in his investigations.
And so this continued later in life to when we were sort of like 18, 19, 20. And I remember going into a pub with him and there had been a murder. And he said,
one?
Yeah, there had been a murder like in this town where he lived. And he said, yeah, there was a murder here the other day. And I was like, okay. And he went, maybe we can find something out when we go to the pub. I said, please don't. We walk into the pub. They say like, yeah, two pints of lager, please. They're pouring the pints. And then my friend goes, so I hear there was a murder here recently. And then the barmaid sort of went, And then he said, do you know anything about it? She looked at him and just said, no. I was like, what did you expect that she was going to tell you? Yeah, I do know. It was that guy over there. He murdered him.
He's done it.
So, yeah. And then you're going to go to the police. You've like solved the case.
You got to start somewhere though, Martin.
Exactly.
But
right, he was always
lead.
Yeah. He was always so weird that he kind of was excused of like people taking the piss out of him.
So did that connect to he did geocaching?
Well, I just thought of someone like going treasure hunting, like investigation kind of thing. That's why it popped into my mind. But no, I've never known anyone to go treasure hunting. No,
I've just remembered I've done this. So
oh God, here we go.
Yeah, I've done it once and never again. So this is a bit of a long story. My auntie, well, I'll skip that bit. So my auntie's son, I met him when he was 30.
Right.
And he said, let's go geocaching. So I was like 10, I think. And I was like, what's that? He was like, it's hiking. Let's go hiking. And so we went hiking. Oh, no, orienteering.
Okay,
so
that's a fancy word for hiking.
Yeah, but it's with a map and you've got to find things. I was like, heckles are raised here, but okay. So I was 10. I went along with it. He gave me a map and then a compass. And then he was like, right, we've got to find these locations across this woodland and we've got to race and we've got to do it quicker than everyone else.
Okay. So it's an organised thing. Other people are doing it.
It's a very organised thing.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. It's taken quite seriously. And it's like time trials. You've got to get the best time of the day kind of thing.
Okay.
It's weird. It's really, really weird. I, don't want to yuck anyone's yum, but I haven't done it since I was 10. Yeah. The next one is model building. Gosh, these hobbies are very...
like building, like model Lego
airplanes,
things or...
Model
airplanes,
okay. Cars, ships, miniature sets.
Yeah, I think I did one or two of them when I was a kid, but it's just the patience needed for things. I always think again as well, like if you're expecting I think like my dad was quite into that and he was trying to get like me and my brother to do it. But if you're expecting like an 8-year-old to sit there with like such patience and do all of these things, you just think like you naturally just got bored. It was like fishing. My dad used to take me fishing when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But like now I think I'd quite enjoy sitting out in the nature and just like taking it easy.
That hobby is apparently one of the most popular outdoor activities in the world. Fishing.
Okay.
I just have been writing an email this morning about it to people, and 55 million people in the US take part in fishing every year.
That's decent, yeah.
That's a lot, isn't it?
It is, like, I think it would be enjoyable now. But again, when I was 8 and you're just sitting there and you're just like, you don't catch a fish the whole day. Like, I mean, there were times when you did catch a fish and it was great. You're like, oh, you're thinking you're like catching like a whale, and then like you get a fish like that. But still, it was great when you catch a fish. But just the sitting there doing nothing when you're 8, it's not really sort of that interesting.
No, it's not. It's not instant gratification by any means.
No.
And there's very little stimulation whilst you're waiting for the big catch.
Exactly.
And also, you've got to be quite skillful after waiting for ages. And so a young kid is probably not going to have that skill ready to unleash and get the reward, are they?
Yeah. Well, like, I caught some fish. We used to go to like fishing lakes, though. Not like, it's more difficult if you go like sea fishing and stuff. So like fish are there to be caught, and then you put them back. But still, yeah. I mean, it didn't involve that, man. I'm sure my dad must have helped me anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, something I would like to do now. But yeah. But the problem is now I'm kind of scared of all fish and things. I wouldn't want to touch the fish.
Yeah. Oh, right. You wouldn't. Yeah. No, I wouldn't actually like that. But my I don't actually like eating much seafood. I like some things like raw, like sushi. I quite like that.
Okay.
As soon as it's cooked and it tastes really fishy. I wasn't raised.
I'm the opposite. Okay.
What, you don't like raw fish, but you like fishy?
I'll eat raw fish, but like sushi, I'm not a big fan of sushi. My wife loves it, and I think my wife knows that I don't particularly like it, so she just says she likes it more than she actually does. And then she'll be like, "Oh, can we go sushi?" And I'm like, "For God's sake!" I basically eat sushi on her birthday every year because
that's hilarious. Going back to the model building. So I was part of the cool group, quote unquote. Actually, I should say that again, because I told a student you should say it at the beginning. I was part of the quote unquote cool group in my school. I was kind of on the precipice of being kicked out of the cool group, and secretly, Thursday, Friday night, we'd be at the park drinking beer at like age 14, 15 and above. I'd hate it, that taste of beer, but I'd force myself to do what they were doing. But secretly on the weekday, I'd be like painting a little model car. I'd have like a little setup, and I would be that really patient, like calm person that would take my time and nerd out on building a Ferrari Enzo or something.
And then when your friends come by, you just quickly put it in the cupboard, just in case anyone sees it.
Oh, what's that? Oh, smash it up. Yeah. Oh, get the beers out, lads. Come on. Hiding my personality from everyone.
You were a bit older then, though, I suppose, to have the patience for it. Because I remember doing those things when I was sort of under 10. But yeah, I suppose you get that kind of satisfaction at the end, don't you? Like, I had someone on the podcast talk about this. She called it type 2 happiness. So type 1 is like, if you have a beer, like by the lake, that's great. But if you cycle up a mountain, get to the mountain and have a beer there, that beer is going to taste much better because you've got that sense of like achievement. So I suppose there is some kind of type 2 happiness of like, you've spent all this time, then you've got this beautiful car or whatever at the end of it. When you look at it, you're like, oh, I worked so hard to get that. So I suppose there's that to it, but not something I've ever really been into myself.
Oh, I see. That reminded me, actually, yesterday I was spending time with a friend who said about his group of friends in WhatsApp have like a picture of, they send a selfie of like the best type of beer you can have. Like what you just said, like up a mountain, having a refreshing beer, or like the first pint on the Sunday football day. Like for them, they know that they've got like 10 more to come, and they're very happy with the fact that they're starting early. Or like the first pint abroad when you've sat down at your resort.
Yeah,
and you've got like a week of gluttonous behaviour coming up. But yeah, okay. So we will be leaving the free version of this episode here for today. But if you did want to continue listening to this conversation, then head over to the BritishEnglishPodcast.com, where you can sign up to the Premium Podcast or the Academy. The Premium Podcast gives you the ad-free version with transcripts, a full glossary and flashcards, whereas the Academy gives you all of that plus a whole lot more, including vocab video lessons, writing assignments, weekly Zoom classes, and you can also get paired with a new speaking partner of a similar level to yours each month to really get your speaking practice in. But if you were just here for the free version of this episode, then I thank you very much. Congratulations for getting to the end of this part, and I hope to see you back here next week for another episode. I've been your host, Charlie, on the British English Podcast. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Before you go, don't forget to download the free vocab worksheet specifically designed for this episode so that you can go away feeling satisfied that you've got your listening practice in for the day and expanded your vocabulary. You can find the link in the show notes or visit thebritishenglishpodcast.com/worksheet. That's thebritishenglishpodcast.com/worksheet. What's more is you'll unlock the vocabulary worksheet for every single episode in one go. You're welcome. Happy learning.